Hey, we're back. I'm BKP. Good morning from the office. North Georgia's only live online morning show. And we're happy to have with us Georgia House Speaker David Ralston. Speaker Ralston, are you with us this morning?
I am. Great to be with you, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you for being on. And I tell you what we really want to do is session just ended. And I think it was 12:24 a.m. the session ended.
I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, because I was watching. I got to get a life, Mr. Speaker. I watched.
You do have to get a life.
I watched right till 12:24 when it came out. I will tell you this, and then I want you to talk about session. My favorite part, Mr. Speaker, is the gavel 2 times and the House will come to order. So that's my favorite part of all of it. I do listen to the speeches, but that's my favorite part. Speaker Ralston, tell us a little bit about session. Give us a little bit on what took place down there, what bills you're, I guess, most proud of that you got out and got passed and on the governor's desk, and how you think things went.
I think things went reasonably well. I was pleased with the session. You never make everybody happy in a session. We're limited by law to 40 days. We're a citizen legislature, and so we have a lot to get done during that period of time. I was most happy that we were able to pass a balanced budget. We do that every year. We did it in actually 39 days this year. I think it's a budget that will serve Georgians well. I'm very proud of some of the things in there. Once we get on into April a little bit more, we'll have some announcements about what that budget means for specifically to the 7th House District, and maybe I can come back on and talk about that with you. But the budget is always that's the only thing that we have to do, and so I was pleased with that. I was pleased, you followed the town hall meetings I had with our school teachers back in December when we were about to get some reports from the Governor's Education Reform Commission. I was concerned that educators were not sufficiently represented in that group, so I went to both LJ and Blue Ridge and had great meetings with school teachers and heard their concerns on some issues. And one of the things that came out of that, there were several things. One of the things was that the oppressive testing requirements that we put on teachers. I believe that we ought to have our teachers testing less and teaching more. And one of the measures that we passed this session was Senate Bill 364, which does just that. And I was particularly proud of that. A lot of measures that we passed that I'm very, very proud of, and again, we'll be talking about those as we get further and wait and see if they get signed into law or vetoed.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I went straight into. I went to both of those town halls, and I actually made comments. We videoed them here at FetcherNews.com, and we put them up for everybody to see. And the teachers did. They lined up at the podium, and I know you had the appropriations chair, Mr. England, Representative England, and I forget the comedian you had with him, and don't tell him I called him that, but my gosh, that guy, what's the gentleman's name, the education?
That's the Education Committee chair, Chairman Brooks Coleman.
Yeah, I didn't mean that in no disrespect.
No, I know. He's a motivational speaker in addition to being a former classroom teacher.
Oh, my gosh.
And he's high energy.
Yes, he's high energy. But anyhow, both of those town halls, they were good. They were very informational, and I know you were able to take a lot of information back when passing that bill.
Right.
Let me move at what time we have short. You brought up signed or vetoed, and obviously that has been the talk of the week, and we appreciate you taking time for our show because I know you've been bombarded by national media and everybody across the state or Southeast on the free. Now, folks out there, if you're wondering what I'm talking about because you never hear this, it's the Free Exercise Protection Act that the media out there only wanted you to believe called Religious Liberty Bill. And You made some comments on that as far as a press release, Mr. Speaker, and also the governor vetoed that. Tell us a little bit how you feel about what took place there.
Well, first of all, I was disappointed in the veto, and I was disappointed because I believed and still do that that was a very fair compromise. We had a lot of people at the table. This is an issue that's been discussed for 2 years, and we worked really hard this session to strike what I thought was the right balance between protecting people of faith and their religious views, but doing it in a way that was non-discriminatory toward other people, and I really felt we got there. Obviously, the governor obviously did not agree, and I regret that. I respect this governor. I respect that the office of governor does have with it the power of the veto. But I really felt like that this was a measure that could be supported by everyone. What I really regret, though, more than the veto, is the unrelenting attacks from different groups on the bill. And what I was finding was that people, whether they were CEOs of large corporations or whether they were members of interest groups, mostly from outside the state of Georgia, did not even take the time to read the bill before they attacked it. And so there grew to be this misinformed hysteria over the bill that I think misrepresented the content of the bill and the intent of the bill, and I really regretted that because we were trying to resolve this debate and bring closure to this debate, and so the veto means that that there is no closure.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the veto means there is no closure, and I hear you loud and clear because this has taken up a lot of time on the floor of the House and Senate for several years, and especially this time back and forth. And I know Senator Kirk stood up when he introduced the bill. I watched all the debate on both sides of the House that day too. And when he stood up and he said this is a good compromise. I watched Representative Tanner present the bill, and I heard all the debate on the bill, and it seemed to be a good compromise for everybody, and it just, to me, was misrepresented by the media. So that's just my take on it.
Well, and I think that take is for the most part accurate. I can't say enough good things about the hard work that Representative Kevin Tanner did on the bill. It started out as a bill I asked him to carry. It was the Pastor Protection Act that we passed out of the House unanimously. It went over to the Senate. They had quite a different view of the issue, and so they sent back that bill as well as another measure attached to it, but that's the way the legislative process works. We all have different takes on issues, and I just think it's unfortunate and not helpful that we had a lot of mischaracterization and misrepresentation of the bill, and I just regret that very, very much.
Mr. Speaker, the other one on the governor's desk at this time with a lot of concern is campus carry. Mm-hmm. And are you obviously concerned, or do you know when he may sign that, or are you getting any indication on what's going on with campus carry?
Well, I am. I know the media here again is drawing a lot of attention to that. I know there's advertising on TV that I've seen asking him to veto the bill. I have received no indication indications that he's going to veto the bill. When we passed that bill out of the House, and here again, that was Representative Rick Jaspers from Jasper was leading the charge on that bill, along with Representative Mandy Ballinger from Canton, Chairman Alan Powell from Hartwell. They were all in a leadership position, as was Chairman John Meadows from Calhoun. The bill is very simple. It basically says that just because that if you're otherwise eligible by law to own and possess a firearm under the Second Amendment, that you don't give up that constitutional right simply by walking onto a college campus. I think it's a very simple proposition. I think people are concerned over the rising level of violence on some of our campuses. When I'm in session, I stay a couple of blocks from the Georgia State University campus downtown Atlanta, and they have had I can't remember if it's at least 2, if not 3, armed robberies in a library during daylight hours on that campus since December. So a lot of parents are very concerned, I think, about having their kids be on that if they wish for them to be able to defend themselves, be on a campus. The Senate agreed with us. I don't even think they made any changes. We were not asked by the governor's office during the process in the House, nor during the process in the Senate for changes. I'm very hopeful that he will sign that measure into law, because that was something I think was very important. I have worked hard during the time that I have been Speaker, and even before, to make sure that our Second Amendment rights were strengthened, not weakened. And I think that was we did that 2 years ago with a very, very strong Second Amendment bill. This was a continuation of that. I think that's very, very important. I think, again, people are concerned when they hear talk out of Washington from this president and even from the front runner for the Democratic nomination, talking about issuing executive orders to curtail basic constitutional rights, and that concerns me. And I don't want to see that happen in Georgia, and I think it's important that we do everything possible to ensure that not happen.
Mr. Speaker, just a couple quick things. I know you got to go, and again, we appreciate you taking the time this morning. A couple things. One bill that didn't come out of committee, and I want to talk about one that did not get to the floor for a vote that I was kind of following a little bit, is I just call it just the chance to make a constitutional amendment giving the Georgia citizens the right to vote on a constitutional amendment making English the official language. Do you know what maybe held that up in committee and why that didn't get on the floor?
English is already the official language of Georgia by
Yeah,
law.
I understand that, but a constitutional amendment, though, to vote on.
I checked on that late in the session, and part of the legislative process is that if the author of a bill wants to get it passed, then he not only has to shepherd it through the chamber that he serves in, but then he needs to go ask for a hearing and ask that it be considered by the other chamber, and he really has to work it through both chambers. And I was advised late in the session that the author of that bill had not even been to the House to request a committee hearing on that. And so again, I go back to the point, we have 40 days to take care of business, and if people are not energized about their measures, then sometimes things due to the process kind of fall through. So, I would suggest that the author of the bill, if he brings it back, he's going to need to work it from both sides of the Capitol, because he's competing with other members who want their bills considered by both chambers and passed by both chambers.
Well, I always pick out a couple, Speaker Ralston, to follow and kindly see why they didn't come out, and I appreciate you answering that. Back to the religious liberty bill, just real quick, and I'm sorry I even actually refer to it that way. When it went, two-part question, when did you find out from the governor he was going to veto it? And second part, does it bother you that you have that much time invested, especially in this session that I've seen take place, knowing that you're going to hit the gavel next year, and you're going to probably start out with a couple of bills similar to that sitting right there ready to go?
Well, I found out about 10 minutes before his press conference on Monday morning. He called me. It was a private conversation. It was very professional, and we were very respectful toward one another. So that's the manner and time that I found out. I'm not sure I understand the other part of your question.
Well, the other part of my question is you spent, it's the citizens' time is what I'm
Right.
looking at.
Yes.
It's 40 days. It's the citizens' time, and they send each and every one of you down there to do the work of the people. And in the work of the people, the people's representatives put a lot of time in that 40 days. They probably could have been working on something else, which obviously they don't do any bills knowing they'll go all the way through. But the point being is how do you feel that you're going to open session next year, and right from the start, you're going to have to start putting committees together, and you're going to start having bills sponsored that are going to be right down the language of what just got vetoed, and you're going to have to work on it again?
Well, that was why I thought it was important that we reach a solution rather than just have an issue still hanging out there. And that was, I referred to it a few minutes ago as bringing closure, and I was hoping that we could have brought closure so that we could, as you say, move on to other issues. I mean, we've got a lot of issues out there in education, health care. Rural health care is an issue that we dealt with some this session, and we're going to have to really make that a priority issue here in Georgia going forward for reasons that we see close to home.
Yes, absolutely.
But as you say, people are going to come back and introduce different bills, and we'll start this process all over. And I'm sure actually that process will begin later in the spring or summer when we sort of catch our breath and the dust settles and the smoke clears from this session. And my hope is that if we can work on it intensely and in good faith and with a view of being fair, that we can reach a consensus before the session starts. We had hoped to do that this past session, but we weren't able to. But we did continue to work through the session. But I would hope. I don't know how realistic it is or how likely that we could reach a consensus on this issue before the beginning of the next session. But time will tell on that.
Let me bring this home before we close. And I appreciate all the time you're giving me this morning.
Sure.
Have you been engaged into what level, and I know maybe you can't share all the direction with the situation with the local rural hospital here at North Georgia Medical Center and what's taking place here with the concerned citizens? It's a big thing in Gilmer County today. So let's bring it home to the local hospital. Have you been engaged in this process?
I have been. I've had meetings with the county commissioners, and I know that Chairman Paris and Commissioner Miller and Commissioner Crouch are all very, very committed to finding a solution, and I've been working with them as well as many other citizens in the community. This does involve private business, and so I can't divulge all of the nature of all of our discussions, but we have been supportive and we have been helpful, and I think they would agree. because I know this is something that's very important. You can't overstate the importance to keeping a hospital in our community, and I'm committed to doing that. I know they are. I'm reasonably optimistic that hopefully things are going to fall in place in the near term that will enable that to happen. But it's we're in a precarious situation. There's no question, and we're not alone. Frankly, many other communities in rural Georgia have had this same experience, and it's unfortunate.
It's a statewide rural hospital, nationally actually rural hospital issue. You feel good that something can be reached, that the citizens of Gilmer County will be able to maintain some kind of rural hospital?
I'm hopeful and optimistic. It's a tough issue. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to tell you that it's something that's going to be quick and easy to fix. It's not, but I think we have some good people that are committed to a good long-term solution, and I think if we all keep pulling in the same direction, we're going to get there.
Last question of the day. I'm bringing it home because I'll tell you, this is one of those, and I'll say to you, and I know you. I see you around the district all the time, so I know you're talking to the voters up here. But this is one that I hear a lot of, so I'll pick this one today to share with you, bringing it home. Can you kindly explain why Super Bowl ticket holders should get a tax-exempt break on that? Why the NFL got that break? Or can you clear that up for me and the people back home here?
Well, I can tell you that the advocates for that basically made two arguments, which were never knocked down, and that is that for the return on that exemption is 3 or 4 to 1. In other words, it would be like me giving you $1 and you turning it into $3 or $4. And that's not a bad return. We're talking obviously more money than that, but that was the return. And secondly, this is something that, and I did see the correspondence from the NFL. This was something that every other jurisdiction that they have located a Super Bowl in over the last many years, they have insisted on being adopted for the game to be awarded to that city. You know, we don't have a Super Bowl yet. Let me caution you.
I understand
that this is
a hypothetical exemption at the time.
That if we get that they would have required, and the economic impact aside from this, the economic impact to the state from a Super Bowl is estimated on the low end to be $60 million.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to tell you how much I appreciate it. I know it was a long session. I know there's a lot on your plate, and I know it has to be tough to work as hard as everybody did during that session to bring the Religious Liberty Bill to a vote and to get it passed just to get it vetoed. So I know that was, my words had to be a sting, and so I know that's something you guys are dealing with. I hope things work out with the campus carry. I'm going to get opinionated here just for a brief second and say I hope the governor will sign that, because bringing it back home, I know your district is, like you do, that they're in support of campus carry. We have a lot of technical schools, and I'm telling you something, we got a lot of schools that there are no dormitories. That people walk back and forth to the classroom. So that's the argument that always comes up, is the dormitories, but they're leaving so many schools throughout the state out of that. Would you agree, Mr. Speaker?
Well, yes, and dormitories were exempted from this bill
exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly.
And here again, if you'll let me be opinionated for a moment.
Go right ahead.
There's so much hysteria from gun control advocates on this measure. They would have you believe that that people can go to a tailgate at the University of Georgia on a fall Saturday afternoon or at Georgia Tech and have a drink or two and shoot the place up. But athletic events are exempted. Athletic events are exempted. So I would suggest to those people, just as I suggest to the critics of the Free Exercise Protection Act, that they read the bill. It's important
to read the bill. Mr. Speaker, what we'll do is we'll all the gun control people that feel so strong about that, we'll issue each and every one of them a free box of chalk. Okay, they can have their chalk and do whatever they want. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate it. You brought up the budget, and look, I'd like to get you in here, sit down, you and I, and you brought up the budget and looking at it and starting to drill down in it. So one morning maybe you can come in here and we can dig into some other things as campaign season starts. I haven't brought that up, but we know that's happening.
It's already started.
Oh, has it started? I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't paying any attention. I'm sorry. I apologize. Maybe I get a little too into politics, Mr. Speaker. So, but campaigning's already started, has it?
Oh, we've been working for a long time. We're going to, and obviously now that I'm through in session, which is the job that people sent me to do, then we'll be ratcheting up. I've got a full afternoon up here in Blue Ridge today and some events, I think a full day mostly in Fannin County tomorrow, and be down in Gilmer County the first of the week. So, I'm having fun, and we're working incredibly hard and going to keep it up and getting a great response. So I feel very encouraged, and we're going on to a big win on May 24th.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I believe it or not, I had intended not even to bring up campaign. The whole thing was supposed to be about session, so.
But you couldn't help it.
I couldn't. You know, I couldn't help it. You know, I couldn't get through that. But I'll tell you what we'll do. We will come in and talk about campaign. How about that?
Sure.
We'll have something. Mr. Speaker, you have a wonderful day. You have a wonderful day, and I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Bye. Hey, that's House Speaker, Georgia House Speaker David Ralston, and the seventh district representative. I hope I got that right. North Georgia here, and my goal this morning, folks, for all of you who had that whole list of questions, is basically talk a little more about session and things like that. He knows all too well that the campaign is getting ready to take off, and we'll get to talk to the speaker several more times during campaign season. Okay, huh? It's District 7, right? So, hey, stay tuned for North Georgia's only live online newscast. Kevin Hensley is coming up. It is April Fool's Day Friday. No, folks, you don't have to get nervous. I'm not coming in and trying to read the newscast. I just can't do it nowhere as well as Kevin, and so I can't do that. And no, we're not going to do any more segments where Lonnie's going to tell you to vote for Captain America. But then again, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm walking away from here in a couple minutes, and what they do, I'm leaving the kids alone. And whatever, the kids are home alone, and Macaulay Culkin and whatever his name is over here, Stark, they could do whatever they want. I'm your host, BKP. We'll be back Monday morning at 8 a.m. with Good Morning from the Office, and we'll continue our segments, American Hustle. Lonnie, take us out of here.